This is Scratch Your Own Itch, the one show that delivers the conversations that we're afraid to share, but need to. This show is all about creating a life worth living. I'm Logan Tyler Nelson, and I'm your host. So, you're going to hear conversations with creators and entrepreneurs talk about what they do, their current and past traumas, how they became who they are, and what they are truly curious about. This is the show where we talk about the things we think about a lot, but need to talk about more. Please take note that this show is not a substitute for actually creating a life worth living, because this show will stir your beliefs, make you question what it means to create a life worth living. So my promise to you is to always give you one question to answer for yourself today, to start turning your dreams into a reality. All right. Thank you, ladies and gents, for coming in and tuning in to Scratch Your Own Itch. I appreciate you guys taking the time to tune into this, because I know you can be listening to so many other things, and you're here for a reason now. You are, whether or not the title brought you to it. Maybe it was a clickbaity title that you're like, wow, this is cool, I want to learn more about this. Or maybe it was Vin himself that brought you to this. Or maybe it was just my own podcast on promo on LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter or Instagram that brought you to this. But you're here for a reason. And that means something. It means something big. I want you to take and really try to listen to this closely, because this guest today, Vin Clancy, is an expert in his area. He's I'm not just gonna call him a growth hacking expert, because that's just such an awful term. It's really so much more. And I'm gonna put his bio in the show notes, but I really want to help me giving a warm welcome to the one and only Vin Clancy.
You should need an applause button there, like a sound effect, and then sharing. That would be good on the podcast.
I love it, Vin, man. So, man, to start us off, that's hilarious. Start us off, I'd like to ask you just, what's a short story, not too long, but a little short story that you have from your own life that gives us a little valuable piece of message or moral of the story sort of type of ending to it?
Man, I got hundreds. Why don't you pick a vague or specific area, and I'll give, or feeling or emotion or something, and I'll give you one.
So specifically, when was the first time where you're like, wow, I can actually make money online, and it's kind of scary now, the fact that I can do this anyplace, anytime, anywhere? And do you have a little restraint to when you do work on your business instead of working on the business all the time, instead of just taking a certain amount of time on the business?
I was already thinking about my early days as an entrepreneur. For this story. So I was on social welfare 5.5 years ago now, living off 72 pounds a week from the government, in a tiny apartment with no heating. And I decided to start an online magazine. I'd never had a real job before, just wanted to get into the startup thing. I just watched the Social Network movie. So we built a website, Planet Ivy. We then had people start to write for it. And then, I remember a couple of things really stood out. The very first day, we got an advertorial. So someone paid us £300 to put an article on our site. And they gave it to us on a Friday. And I remember doing it, staying up till 1 a.m. on a Friday night to finish the article. And in retrospect, it obviously wasn't due until Monday morning. But I was like, wow, money. It was such a big deal for me. And the second was the first day we did 71,000 visitors on the site when something went viral. I remember thinking, if we get more of these, we can make a living from the net. Yeah, I remember being in my tiny apartment, and saying that to my ex. That was a beautiful moment.
Man, that is crazy. Oh, geez. So let's kind of like reverse engineer this and talk about the one key advice that going back after going from A to B, like what's the one key piece of advice you'd like to give someone about your industry?
Well, let me come at that from a different angle. Recently, I've been involved in a different industry, and it's really good. Like, I'm not doing so much writing at the moment. Otherwise, I'd be writing articles on this. So it's a good place to put it here. So to understand, right, you got a brand new thing, you don't know anything about it. The first thing I would do is go to conferences that you have to pay to go to, and go and ask people very blunt questions. So something like, I want to be the biggest in my space within 2 years. What would you recommend I do in the next 6 to 12 months? And so that I can come back to you and say, I did everything you said, can we work together, or are you impressed, or what shall I do next? So that sidesteps the entire sludge of crap that's on the internet. Yes, it's ironic. I sell information for me to say that, but that's probably the main reason I sold hundreds of thousands of dollars of info products, because everything else was crap. So the first thing I would do if you're entering a new industry is go out into the real world, find people who are making it, and ask them that question and get them to guide you. It seems counterintuitive, but at the same time, you also build a network, which will help you in other ways too. And I've always said public speaking, once you know a little bit about the space, is the best way to get your name out there and get high ticket clients. But that's really what I would do at the very start. Speak to people who actually know the space, and be blunt and be bold. It's actually a good thing if you get them angry. If they say, so you've never done this before and you want to be the biggest in the world within 2 years. Well, I'm going to tell you exactly why that won't happen. And they're going to give you all the goods on where other people trip up. So that's where I would start.
Man, I think that's incredible advice. That's incredible. I think because it's it's like the adage of you hear some gossip about someone that you start working with, and you're like, wow, like I've talked to that person a few times, and they don't seem like that bad, and you actually do the work by doing your own research on that person. And I think that's kind of this adage or analogy, the same way you go about it. But I want to go to the next question, which I really am excited to hear your answer about. This one is, what do you think you would give yourself? What advice, at least, would you give yourself if you were going back just 10 years ago?
What is that? 09? I don't know if I'd listen. I'm sure people would have said dial down the partying a bit, and I think I just ignored them. So, I mean, that would be a main thing. I think about this a lot, and it's a kind of very negative thought pattern to get into, because you can always do things differently, and in your mind, when you reverse engineer, you'd always get rich because you knew X was true. I try and kill that thought by saying, yeah, but 10 years ago, if you bought Bitcoin, $1,000 in, you would have had $100 million at the start of December 2017. And then that puts into reference how crazy that question is. So I wouldn't beat myself up over it. There's a lot I could have done differently, but to the most part, I did everything to get me to the next step. The only broad thing I would say is mentorship, and that leads into what I said earlier. I didn't have mentors till late 2016, really. So a little late in my progress, but it helped a lot. So yeah, I would say mentors is still the key. You can learn by your own mistakes, but you can learn in advance by having good mentors.
Man, I love that you say that so much. I do. I really love. And of course, it's like always the what ifs and whatnot. But I asked that question only because it does give people to really absorb wisdom, and instead of stepping on their own feet. And sometimes there's the you got to learn by your own mistakes. And so I at least try to give people the opportunity to be wise, and instead of learning through failing, but learning through other people's mistakes. And you just brought up a huge thing about mentorship. Mentor, you like get a mentor. Um, are are you someone like me who kind of hates that word mentor?
Nope.
Or you think it's a good thing to actually hire someone to kind of show you the ropes?
Man, I think it's so arrogant not to have a coach. It's like what you're saying is, I'm really good. I don't need to get any better. No one can tell me anything. That's literally what you say when you don't have a coach for an area of your life you want to get better in. So firstly, that's it. That's all ego when you say I don't need a coach. Secondly, there's the billionaire principle. Look at billionaires. What do? Well, they all have mentors and they all take nootropics. So like, there's two things to explore. Modeling after successful people. And then, something I realized recently, if nothing else, if the coach doesn't teach you anything or give you anything, which some of them don't, I tell you, it's so good to have someone you see once a week who just believes in you. Who doesn't say that's a bit of a big dream, that's not going to happen. It's just like, yeah, okay, right, how are we going to do it, what are we going to do next? And then they don't even give you the chance to not believe. That's something I realized recently. One of my coaches, just it's so nice, they believe in you, and they're going to help you get you there, and like Jordan Peterson said, people have so little encouragement these days. So it's so lonely when you start out and you think, am I crazy? To see a coach, so nice.
Okay. Yeah, dude, I am totally on. I love the the total disagreement with me on this. I think that's really cool. I think it is actually very important to have someone to sort of teach you. And the reason why now that I bring this up is I've been taking a look at my own life, and I've been like, where are there holes missing? And the holes is, I'm trying to do this by myself, and that's the hardest thing is doing it by yourself. Going into my next question is, what is your favorite quote, and why? And the reason why I ask that question is just because I think it gives a real context to who a person is nowadays, and what their true dreams are.
So my favorite piece of advice, there was a new one recently, but I don't know if I can remember it. But my favorite piece of advice still is, never take advice from someone who has not done the exact thing you're trying to do. Yeah,
that's golden. That's golden.
So elementary, and the more you think about it, another thing is, again, because I've been looking at a new industry recently, the difference between those who are making it in the industry, the difference in advice, and those who are at the bottom is scary. It's scary because the advice you hear at the bottom, it doesn't sound like bad advice. So for instance, in internet marketing, it's got to have a good website, got to get a blog going, blog regularly. That's how you show expertise. That was the thing until I came along with growth hacking. And then people tried that, and then 6 months in, maybe they start getting a little traffic. It was terrible advice, but it sounded like good advice. Where actually what I came in with is your main thing needs to be social media. Build a Facebook group and just copy and paste the entire article into Facebook. More people will see it, engage with it, comment on it, get to know you. Don't try and drag them off. The algorithm will kill you. Like that was the true advice, but the blog advice didn't sound like bad advice.
Man, I love that. That's really that's cool. Perfectly answered. So I just got a few more questions to round us out. Then, we spoke off here about just like vulnerability and being honest and transparent, and I think a lot of people that listen to this podcast, they relate with the sadness and the darkness and stuff more than they do the highlight reels. And I bet if they look you up, they'll probably see all the highlight reels. And so I just want to give like a real insider look and give an opportunity to kind of share share with us a struggle that you're currently going through right now, whether in your business or maybe it's with your body image or anything. Take us wherever you'd like to go.
Well, I'm in a good place right now, but but like last summer, yeah, and the year before it. So I consistently struggled with burnout. Like you can't even look at your email. You end up watching unbelievable amounts of TV shows and movies when you should be working. And you know things are bad when you're Googling the symptoms of depression and you score like 7 out of 8 of them and you bring that to your coach. So this is some bad news. And something my performance coach taught me was if you're working on the wrong things, it doesn't matter how many productivity hacks you do. If you're not working on something that excites you, you are going to procrastinate like hell. And that's something I learned. And then I moved away from certain projects last year that weren't, feeding me spiritually, I guess. And it got a lot better. And now I'm in. I was shocked. I mean, we're in early Feb now. I've not been burnt out this year. Like to go 4 weeks without burnout is unbelievable achievement for me because I'm working on things that are in line with who I am. And I always hated that advice because when you have no money, you tend to think, well, it's easy for you to say working on the right things. But it's a case of you've got to grit your teeth because if you're working on things you hate, you'll never get to the top anyway. Those bastard sales guys. And I guess I'd put, that's a bit of a strong word, but someone like Grant Cardone, you could tell he loved the days when he was making 150, 200 phone calls a day. Like he had that spirit to do it. So he was built for it. It didn't feel like work for him. But for someone else, maybe not so. So there's certain things that you're going to be really in tune with. And no matter what it is, you can make a living off it. So you got to lean into those. So for me, it was always about creating. So with Ace the Game, my second book, I wanted to bring together the best growth hacks and then create this cool package with like a video course and so on. So that's what I did. And that was like one of my most enjoyable things and doing a big launch. So that was really good. And then other parts of my business, I didn't enjoy so much. So I stopped doing them. So that's really the main thing. That's going to be the main productivity hack. You're going to feel fed up if you're working on things you hate.
Man, I love that so much. I think that is the truth serum that I think a lot of people need to take more of. Is you just nailed it on the head. All right, last two things, man. Second to last question is where can people find more of Vin Clancy if they're interested in what you're talking about and just more so getting your help too and getting one of them books, because this book, man, is filled with so much loaded gold. So please tell us where we can find more of you.
Yeah, the best place is acethegame.com. That is the book and course. It's under $100. It's the best thing I've ever produced. It's 100 best growth hacks in the world right now. So that's the starting point. Otherwise, Traffic and Copy is my Facebook group with like productivity and growth hacking. And I'm Vin Clancy on Facebook. Is the best places to get me. But Ace the Game is really all you need, and then it starts from there.
I love it, man. And then last question. I really am scared. Like, I'm scared for this podcast to just be entertainment for people and not to use it as like a form of education. And I think a form of education has to happen in the tango where both parties are doing something. Therefore, they listen to this and they actually do something with it. So what's a piece of homework you could give to a listener to sort of get themselves in a place of either marketing themselves better, because you're definitely known to be pretty darn good at doing that, or in another capacity, maybe it's a self-improvement technique, anything that you think would help them enrich their lives?
So I guess if we're talking enriching their life, start measuring everything. what time you go to sleep, how long you work for, how much exercise you do, how good are the meals you have. So it really comes down to what gets measured, gets managed. That's like a top level to set on everything. I'm in the productive form of my life, but I have, to most people, an unbelievable routine. So I go to bed at midnight, I get up at 9, I work out for 15 minutes, I eat, and then I normally start work 10 till 1. Then I have lunch, I nap for 45 minutes. So I have basically a 2-hour lunch break. And then 3 till 6 I work, 6 till 8 I have another 2-hour break, where I eat and watch entertainment. Like I don't watch entertainment until 6. And then 8 till 11 or half 11 I work. So this is like 9.5 hours a day. Yeah, you know, I have those big long breaks, so it doesn't seem like work. Really, I kind of get 3 full days of work into one day. Most people only do about 3 hours work a day. So yeah, that's like my routine, but in it I have the same foods every day. I have spring water delivered from a lake to my house to drink. Like I got all these little bits in it. They all add 1%, and those 1% stack up real good. So yeah, it's about that.
Perfect, man. I don't think we could have ended this any better. I love that answer. I hope people really listen to that part, like over and over and over, the routine that you have, because I think it's very great routine. It's a very optimal way of trying to hack your own way to doing things, you know. And I think it's the best thing that comes out of it is managing your creative energy or your work energy, you know. That's what I see coming out of it. So thank you, Vin, so much for taking the time to do this interview, man. I really appreciate it. I'll be sharing it with you once it's done. You are the man.
Thanks.
There'll be girls across the nation that'll eat this up. Babe, I know that it's your soul, but could you battle it up? Get down to the heart of it. No, it's my heart. Your shit out of your luck. Don't make me tell you again. Woo! Love, love, love. Hey. Love, 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 love.
Oh, wow. You made it to the very end of the show. Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Scratch Your Own Itch with your host, Logan Tyler Nelson. To make it to the end, gosh, that doesn't happen very much nowadays. I mean, especially with the constant distraction. So, I appreciate all of the efforts that you just took out of your day to make it to the end. And if you hit that subscribe button and leave a review, you would have no idea what that would mean to me. So thank you so much for taking the time to hit that subscribe button. And if you leave a review, check it out. Just screenshot it, send it to me, and I'd love to host your review out on the show. But don't ever forget, like I say, you matter and you're enough.
Love is the main reason for how all this happened. Love for all my fans, love for all the shows. Got love for all my memories, no matter where I go. Even if I'm out to nothing, I know there's always something. It's not a fitness test, but it'll always